As we said, the customer should be really the lead entry or a piece of data that guides that. But we also have to consider our own needs. And one big one that I think we're going to see governments facing is really the consequence of revenue reduction, and how to either deliver the same with less or possibly doing more with less. And so we're not advocating for tax revenues being down. We're just, and budget caps that follow. We're simply facing the reality that is likely to follow the economic consequences and increased spending in other areas. And so whether it's doing the same with less or doing more with less, that has to be part of the vision as well. As we start to imagine, I really like, if you're going to have an inflection point, if you're going to change, let's imagine the do more. And let's understand what that means as part of the vision, whether it's more value for the customer, more capacity, more capability, and even secondary effects like more employee engagement in the process, more job satisfaction, can be parts of that doing more with less if we really think through that carefully.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. If you just look at the numbers, I would say we've lost 3 months out of 12, a quarter of the year. And if you just look at sales tax revenue, that makes a material portion of many states' budgets. And you're going to say we lost 25% of that. There's no budget that's going to do well when you lose that much. So I think without a doubt that this has to be addressed. Now, what I'll say is that, budget issues are always an issue, are always prevalent in the public sector. They have been, and they always will be. And so when we've looked at public sector modernization, one of the things we've helped do is develop business cases to basically get funding for these large $50, $75, $100 million projects. Because those kind of large projects come around every decade or so, and you want to make sure that you get that funding. Well, now, those cost benefit analyses, those models are going to be a little different. And I think it goes back to what we have licensed to address now because of the situation. Last year, if you build a cost benefit model, the benefits really weren't going to fly if they were soft. So if you look at employee engagement, you look at efficient process, you look at other things that you would put into a cost benefit model and say, well, those are really soft savings. Those are nice. We really can't spend those. So we need to look at hard savings, or how fast we're going to retire the mainframe and stop paying for that. What other systems can we decommission and stop paying for those? What other collections can we bring in as a result of more efficiency? Those are hard dollars I can look at, and those create a benefit model. I feel like we're at a point now where the crisis that we're in is driven us to say we have lower revenues, we have antiquated systems, we have new demands, we have a new future we're rolling into, and nobody has a crystal ball. Those cost benefit analyses, in my mind, are going to be able to include some of those additional things. And I think it's good because those are real. Those are very real aspects that we have to address. And I think the threshold for being able to consider those is there now. So I do think it's going to be a little bit different in terms of dealing with this funding gap and still moving forward.
And I think this might be perhaps stretching things too far, but you really look at recovering from this pandemic as a key aspect, not just dealing with it, but the recovery that follows. And it's often been referred to as a war in terms of its relative impact. And if you go back through history and look at cities that have been affected through war, they often came back stronger. The cities that were most affected through things like bombing came back stronger, and the greater the decimation, the greater the comeback. And so this is proven true time and time again. And a lot of it comes from the rebuilding effort itself, the economic and sort of concentrated effort around a common mission. And I believe that reimagining government processes can be one of those platforms upon which we do rally around, and we do come back stronger because we found out what's broken. We broke new things. We imagined new possibilities. We were willing to take some risks, and we invested our way towards something even stronger.
Yeah, yeah. I think it goes back to that point, is that when things are status quo, there's not a lot of impetus or appetite to make big change, because things are status quo, and you almost at that point you have a material amount to lose, right? If it doesn't work or doesn't go that way, at least psychologically, right? So you say, well, things are status quo. I don't want to make big changes. I want to keep things the way they are. When you're in a crisis like this, you've lost so much that I think psychologically it's a mindset of saying, well, we're already in the situation. Let's fix it. All the things we had been putting off, or we kind of knew were out there, or we didn't want to experience the pain of changing. We're experiencing the pain now. Let's push forward and improve and get better and rebuild. And I think that's the mindset you're sort of just, that's what makes me think of when you say that.
Yeah, so change is both necessary and an opportunity on many fronts.